If you don't really like me because you can't beat me, then my job is to make you better and better looking for you, boy.
The lights turn on. Katt Williams walks on stage wearing a shiny suit. His voice is sharp and funny. Everyone is laughing so hard. But when he goes backstage, Katt is fighting problems that nobody can see. He's been hurt, betrayed, and dealing with sadness for most of his life. Now at 54 years old, he's not just a famous comedian. He's proof that being famous can be really hard. The man who made the world laugh is now hurting because of that same world. His money disappeared. His family broke apart. Friends died. People stopped trusting him. And we wonder, is there anything left in Katt Williams that isn't broken? From homeless kid to famous comedian. Katt once said, "I left home when I was 13, not because I hated anyone, but because I knew I couldn't live the life someone else chose for me." Those words were short, sad, and marked the start of an amazing journey in comedy. Katt Williams was born in 1971 in Cincinnati, Ohio. His family was very religious. His mom was a teacher and his dad worked at a church. They were strict and thought humor was bad. In that small house, laughing was not allowed. Every wrong word needed an apology. But even in that strict home, Katt learned to watch people closely. He saw when people were fake and when they were pretending. This became the fuel for his comedy later. When Katt was just 13, he legally separated from his parents. This is very rare for a kid. He had no home and no money. He moved around Florida, living in poor neighborhoods. He slept in libraries and read books until his eyes hurt. He said he read over 100 books before turning 15. On the streets, Katt learned how to survive. He learned how to make people laugh so they wouldn't hurt him. He learned how to talk to get food. That's where the comedian was born, not on a stage but on the sidewalk. By the late 1990s, Katt started performing in small comedy clubs in Cincinnati. Then he moved to Los Angeles. He changed his stage name to Katt with a Hat Williams. He had braided hair, flashy suits, and a smile as sharp as a knife. He quickly became famous. In 2002, Katt got his big break. He played Money Mike in the movie Friday After Next. He was funny, fast-talking, and full of confidence. Even though he was only in the movie for 15 minutes, Hollywood noticed him. His comedy was smart but also dangerous. Critics said, "Katt Williams doesn't just tell jokes, he cuts open society with his words." The big success. After Friday After Next, everything exploded for Katt. In 2006, HBO released The Pimp Chronicles Part 1. This comedy show made Williams a superstar across the country. With just a microphone and an empty stage, he talked about racism, fake people, fear, and the crazy things in American life. "Black people aren't afraid of work," he said. "We're afraid of working forever and getting nothing from it." The crowd laughed and cheered. 2 years later came its Pimpin' in 2008. It was even more personal and political. Rolling Stone magazine said it was one of the best stand-up shows of the decade. After that, Williams became the king of comedy. Every tour made tens of millions of dollars. He sold out shows in 50 cities. He looked flashy and sarcastic, but you could always hear the pain of a man who once had nothing. In 2007, Billboard called him America's comedy phenomenon. But what made him really special wasn't the money. It was his bravery to say things others wouldn't. "If you don't see the truth in my story," he once told a crowd, "maybe you are that truth." More than just comedy. Beyond comedy, Katt acted in movies like Norbit 2007, First Sunday 2008, and Scary Movie 5, 2013. He also voiced a character named a pimp named Slickback in the cartoon The Boondocks, which made fun of American culture. At his peak, Katt earned tens of millions of dollars every year. He was one of the highest-paid comedians in the United States. In 2018, Williams surprisingly won an Emmy Award for his role as Willie in the TV show Atlanta. He played a lonely man living with a pet alligator and old memories. The character was a lot like Katt himself, weird, misunderstood, but very human. He went on to release Netflix specials, Great America 2018, World War III 2022, and Woke Folk 2024. Each comeback was like being reborn. At 50, Katt stood between two worlds, fame and chaos. He became a viral guest on Club Shay Shay, an interview watched by tens of millions of people. He made people laugh and think with his brutal honesty. He described the entertainment industry as a battlefield where every laugh comes with a price. A different kind of comedy. Katt's comedy is unlike anyone else's. He doesn't just tell stories, he fights. He doesn't just tell jokes. He makes his audience face truths they try to avoid. He turns his pain into power. When people criticized him, he only smiled. "If you can't make people laugh with your wounds," he said, "you don't understand comedy yet." But that same attitude keeps him on the edge between genius and self-destruction. In the comedy world, many people admire him, but many also fear him. Because Katt doesn't compromise. He openly calls out powerful people in the industry, accusing them of being hypocrites and manipulators. "I don't have a problem with rules," he once said. "I just hate the people who make them so they don't have to follow them." That is Katt Williams, a genius born on the streets who turned loneliness into art. Every time he steps on stage, he transforms. High-pitched voice, quick movements, eyes blazing. But when the lights go out, he's just a tired man quietly packing up his microphone like a warrior putting away his weapon after battle. At 54, after more than 30 years on stage, he leaves behind not only laughter but a painful lesson about the cost of freedom. Because to truly be himself, Katt had to sacrifice everything: childhood, faith, peace. And while the world still laughs because of him, few realize that Katt Williams pays the price for every burst of laughter. After each show, when the applause fades, he returns to the same familiar loneliness where no light is ever bright enough to hide the cracks in his soul. And it is there that the true tragedy begins. The $59 million nightmare. No comedian has ever made audiences laugh as much as Katt Williams, and none has ever been betrayed as badly. At 50, just when he seemed to have survived every storm, he was hit by something that didn't come from the stage or scandal. It came from the very people he trusted most. The story started with a casual interview in 2019. Williams sat before the microphone, his hands shaking slightly, his eyes looking somewhere far away. He revealed that for years, he had been unaware he'd lost more than $59 million. This was money earned over 30 years of performing, acting, and touring. The people who took it weren't burglars or hackers. They were his own management team, people he once called his second family. "You can't imagine what it feels like to realize you've been paying for the fancy lifestyles of people who smile at you every morning," he said. "I thought I was being protected, but in truth, they were building houses with my money." The case quickly became more than just private betrayal. When Williams reported it, the U.S. Department of Justice started a formal investigation. They tracked the missing money through fake companies. According to the files, the huge amount had been stolen over the years through contracts labeled consulting, production, and asset management fees. Investigators found a complicated network of transactions that lasted nearly 8 years. It was so complex that even Katt couldn't believe he had been tricked for so long. The shock destroyed his trust in people. Once a man who watched over every detail of his shows, Katt became someone afraid to sign a single document. He said, "Now, whenever someone brings me a contract, I just look into their eyes. If I see a lie, I walk away." To him, the $59 million wasn't just money. It was youth, blood, and the laughter of millions that had vanished into someone else's pockets. More than money. It wasn't just financial loss. It was the collapse of his inner world. Williams had always been proud of rising from nothing. No parents, no producers, only talent and determination. But this betrayal made him feel like everything he had ever believed in, loyalty, kindness, morality, had been turned into numbers that could be bought and sold. The media swarmed. News outlets like The Guardian and Complex ran the headline, "Comedian Katt Williams reports $59 million embezzlement." Fans were shocked. People who had followed him since the Pimp Chronicles couldn't believe the self-made man had been robbed by his own circle. One viral tweet read, "Katt Williams, the man who said he didn't need help, was destroyed by the very people helping him." In the entertainment industry, Katt's story became a warning. Fellow comedians like Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart, though they'd once clashed with him, quietly talked about his situation backstage. "When you make money faster than you build trust," one veteran comic said, "the first person you should suspect is your manager." For Katt, however, the consequences went far beyond an empty bank account. He fell into deep depression. He rejected all new projects for nearly 2 years. A man who once commanded crowds of tens of thousands now sat silently in his mansion, talking to himself. Friends said he would wander the neighborhood at night, smoking and mumbling jokes he never got to tell. "Katt isn't afraid of losing money," an old friend said. "He's afraid of losing faith in people." Coming back. Yet that tragedy couldn't completely put out his fire. After a long silence, Williams returned with World War III, a stand-up special he described as a battle between truth and lies. Though he didn't mention the missing money directly, audiences could feel the bitterness behind each joke. "I don't need a bank," he joked, "because the banker who robs me is my accountant." The laughter came, but it was followed by an uneasy silence, the kind that only happens when people realize they're hearing more confession than comedy. Since the $59 million incident, Katt completely changed his way of life. He sold properties, withdrew from business ventures, and surrounded himself with only a few truly loyal people. In one interview, he said, "I used to think having more money meant being safe. Now I know money just makes you easier to betray." The public began to see him differently. They no longer saw just a funny comedian, but a man struggling to hold on to his dignity after losing everything. Fans wrote letters of encouragement, sharing memories of how his jokes once helped them through hard times. One comment read, "Katt Williams used to be a symbol of success. Now he's a symbol of strength after betrayal." The $59 million tragedy didn't just take his fortune. It opened the door to deeper wounds. Afterward, Katt began to pull away, cutting ties with many people close to him, even the adopted child he dearly loved. The cracks in his family and new losses were all waiting ahead, and just when the world thought he had suffered enough, fate struck him again. This time, the tragedy didn't come from money, but from the very home he tried to rebuild. The pain named Leanne. At the height of his fame, when laughter still filled sold-out arenas, Katt Williams faced a private pain that no applause could drown out, losing custody of his adopted daughter, Leanne, the little girl he once called the last light in my chaotic life. Williams adopted Leanne when she was only a few months old during the early days of his Hollywood success. He often said, "She's the only thing that reminds me I'm still human." Even during exhausting tour, he called her every night, reading stories over the phone. "If I can't be a father," he once said, "then every other role I play is meaningless." But fate had a cruel twist no script could predict. In 2011, while touring the southern United States, Williams received devastating news. The Los Angeles court had taken away his custody. The reason was simple: he missed the court hearing. He didn't know that months earlier, his daughter's former nanny, Crystal Magee, had filed for custody. She falsely claimed that Williams was neglectful and unfit to be a father. Magee even submitted fake documents to get welfare benefits, saying the child was her niece. When the story broke, the media exploded. The comedian who made America laugh had become the center of a custody battle. In the first days after the ruling, Williams was crushed. He stayed off stage for weeks, canceling shows and hiding in his Malibu home. In a later interview, he said, "I can face the police, the press, even the world, but I can't face that empty room where she used to sleep." Fighting back. But Katt Williams wasn't the type to give up. After discovering the fake documents, he appealed to the California court. He presented proof that he was still the rightful guardian. The legal battle went on for nearly a year. Eventually, the court ruled in his favor, giving him back custody of Leanne. Yet the victory felt empty. The girl, now used to living elsewhere, had grown distant. Katt said, "She still calls me dad, but her eyes aren't the same." The media called it one of the strangest custody cases in Hollywood, because the person who tried to take custody wasn't even a relative, just a former employee. Beat News ran the headline, "Katt Williams regains custody of daughter after former nanny's fraud exposed." It showed that even fame couldn't shield him from betrayal by people close to him. For Williams, the shock went far beyond the court papers. It hit the deepest part of a man who had already lost faith in the world, but still held on to family. "I used to think money could buy lawyers but not justice," he said during a 2012 show. "Now I know justice only belongs to those patient enough not to collapse under pain." Changed forever. After the case, Williams became careful of everyone. He never let anyone care for his daughter alone. He never signed a document without reading every word. Colleagues noticed his behavior changing, quieter, more guarded. Before, when Katt walked into a room, everyone laughed, a close friend recalled. Now he walks in and looks around like he's wondering who will betray him next. The public was divided. Some fans felt deep sympathy, understanding that behind the comedian stood a single father torn between career and love. A viral comment read, "He can make millions laugh, but maybe only one person can make him cry: his daughter." Fellow artists were more cautious, seeing Katt's story as a warning. "Fame doesn't protect you from law or media," said a veteran comic. "It exposes you. When you're a public figure, every mistake you make is amplified 10 times." The case ended, but the wound didn't. Katt and his daughter continued living together, but between them was an unspoken silence, the silence of lost trust and broken caution. In a later performance, he joked about it. "I thought I was a comedian. Turns out I was just cast in a courtroom drama." The audience laughed, but few noticed his eyes glistening. After the money disaster came the family tragedy. A second cut into the heart of a man who thought he'd gotten used to pain. And it opened the door to a new chain of problems: legal battles, lawsuits, and arrests that the media would soon turn into a storm. Even after getting his daughter back, Katt Williams lost something else, the last bit of peace left in his life. And then the next storm arrived. one that would not only steal his calm but change how the world saw him. The legal problems and falling image. There is a sad truth in Katt Williams' life. The man who made millions laugh became the man police knew by face and name. From 2006 to 2024, the comedian slowly turned the stage into a battlefield. The public, once cheering for him, began to wonder, was Katt Williams living in a tragedy, or was he writing it himself? It all started in November 2006 at Los Angeles International Airport. While getting ready to board a flight to New York, Katt was caught carrying a stolen gun. Police arrested him right at the security checkpoint. The news spread like wildfire. Comedian Katt Williams arrested for having an illegal gun. In court, he admitted to hiding a weapon and was sentenced to probation for 3 years. As he left the courthouse, he said quietly, "I carried it for protection. Turns out in America, even laughter needs a license." That first mistake was only the beginning of a decade of trouble. From 2008 to 2016, Katt's name appeared in the headlines as often as on comedy posters. Each year brought another incident, fights, lawsuits, accusations. In 2008, just months after releasing its Pimpin', he was detained by police for acting strangely. At the time, tabloids whispered that he was showing signs of mental problems. In 2012, he was arrested in Seattle after a bar fight. Then he slapped a Target employee in Sacramento, a video that went viral. The image of a smiling cat being handcuffed shocked the public. This is the man who once made America proud of black wit and brilliance. By 2016, the chaos got worse. He attacked a pool store employee in Gainesville. He assaulted a housekeeper. He allegedly threw a salt shaker at a restaurant waiter. Then came a public fight with comedian Tiffany Haddish, whom he accused of being a product of marketing, not talent. To the public, Katt transformed from street hero to unpredictable troublemaker. Local police in Georgia once warned, "Whenever Katt Williams tour our state, we have to increase staff." Rolling Stone magazine summed it up perfectly. No one makes audiences laugh like him, and no one exhausts the police more. The 2024 lawsuit. Then in 2024, an old lawsuit came back. A former personal assistant accused Williams of physical assault from 2016, demanding $1.7 million in damages. The case threatened to ruin him again, but the court dismissed it for lack of evidence and signs it was fake. Katt was cleared, but his image never recovered. To the media, he was no longer the victim but the man who always had problems. The series of troubles left Williams increasingly alone. Each time he left home, he was surrounded by 2 lawyers. In World War II, he bitterly joked, "I don't even know who's my friend and who's my attorney anymore." He lived on edge, unable to sleep, always fearing the next lawsuit. Friends said he'd sit for hours by the window, staring at police lights in the distance, mumbling, "Are they coming for me? Or someone else?" The media, once calling him the soul of street comedy, turned him into clickbait. Every mistake became a scandal. Katt Williams arrested. Katt Williams attacks. Katt Williams shouts at reporter. 3 headlines repeated for nearly a decade, exhausting even his most loyal fans. Though most charges were dropped or proven false, the stain remained. Public opinion split. The public split in 2. Half saw him as a misunderstood genius, a man brave enough to challenge Hollywood's fakeness. The other half saw a self-destructive rebel who couldn't control himself. On forums, people asked, "Why does the man who makes the world laugh always end up in a fight?" It was a question even Katt couldn't answer. Inside the comedy world, reactions were mixed. Some peers sympathized. Others kept their distance. Producers quietly removed his name from tour lists, citing legal risk. A close friend said, "Katt's not bad. He's just tired of trying to do everything right." But to the public, sympathy wasn't enough. They only remembered the mugshots, the arrests, the biting jokes. From 2018 onward, Williams lived almost in hiding, appearing only for major shows or interviews. He admitted once, "Every time I go on stage, I don't think about the laughs anymore. I think about whether someone in the audience is recording me so tomorrow they can post that I lost control." Standing back up. That legal tragedy took from Katt not only his reputation, but also his faith in the stage itself, once his only safe place. And when laughter is met with suspicion, what is left for a comedian to hold on to? Yet, as with every tragedy in his life, Katt stood back up. In recent shows, he no longer avoided his past. "I've been to jail more times than you've been to the movies," he told the crowd with a tired smile. The audience laughed, but it was laughter mixed with compassion. They laughed because they knew behind that small man stood a lifetime of battles against the system, the law, the media, and himself. And after all those wars with authority, Katt faced something far darker: losses that no money or lawyer could fix. A murdered friend, a tour soaked in tears, and the creeping sense that death itself was now circling within his own comedy family. That was the next tragedy, where laughter finally died and silence became the heaviest sentence of all. When laughter turns into tears. When Katt Williams planned his Heaven on Earth tour, he believed it would mark his comeback after years of battling the media, the law, and his own inner wounds. He invested everything: cast, security team, logistics, sound, lighting. More than just a show, Heaven on Earth was his message to the world that had misunderstood him. It was proof that he could still make people laugh and still had the strength to stand tall. But just as things began to look hopeful, tragedy struck again. In August 2025, a shooting happened in South Mississippi at a place connected to Williams' brand. The victim was Reggie Carroll, his longtime stage partner and one of his closest friends. Carroll, 52, had been a loyal friend for years. Katt once described him as the heart of the backstage. When the news broke, the entertainment industry was shocked. Reggie had been shot multiple times during a fight involving a former security staff member who had worked for Williams for a long time. The man had traveled with them for years, eating, sleeping, and living with the crew. No one could understand how it came to this. One man dead, another arrested, and Katt Williams left with yet another scar on his soul. Deep grief. Reggie's death cut deep into an already broken heart. In the days that followed, Katt fell completely silent. No statements, no social media, no performances. Friends said he sat alone in his hotel room, staring at an empty chair, the one Reggie used to sit in at every show. A crew member recalled, "He kept asking over and over, 'Why? How could it happen in my own team, among the people I trusted the most?'" The tragedy forced the entire tour to stop. The team was shaken, morale destroyed. No one had the strength to prepare another stage. Shows that were sold out across cities were suddenly canceled. A sense of fear spread through the group. If violence could happen within their family, what place could ever feel safe again? Katt Williams once said, "The stage is the only place I know I'm loved." But now, even the stage no longer felt safe. He began to distrust everyone, from security staff to the fans behind the barriers. A comedian once fearless under the spotlight now lived in constant fear, never knowing when laughter might be replaced by gunfire. A symbol of pain. For the public, the tragedy was more than a murder case. It symbolized the crumbling of an icon. The man who once made crowds roar with laughter now faced unimaginable pain, the loss of a friend of trust, and once again, another cruel test of fate. On social media, fans wrote, "We used to laugh with him, now we can only cry with him." Within the comedy world, grief spread like wildfire. Veteran performers held a memorial for Reggie Carroll, a night without jokes, filled instead with stories about a man who brought laughter to others. One colleague said, "We used to think comedy was the work of light, but today that light went out, leaving a darkness none of us can bear to face." Katt didn't attend the memorial. He stayed backstage, sitting in a rehearsal room, replaying audio from their last tour together. In the recording, amid the crowd's laughter, Reggie's voice could be heard from behind the curtain. "We did it, man." That sentence echoed endlessly in Katt's mind, both a message of encouragement and a goodbye. The deepest loss. The loss of his friend and partner made Katt realize that sometimes laughter isn't enough to save a soul. He had already lost money, fame, and his adopted daughter. And now he'd lost the one person who laughed with him on the same stage. Each loss became a piece stuck in his memory, pushing him further inward, destroying his trust in others. But perhaps what made this tragedy most painful was that it wasn't just about one name. It symbolized the darker side of the entertainment world, where pressure, competition, jealousy, and isolation can destroy even the closest bonds overnight. And as the tragedy stretched beyond his personal grief, touching those he loved and those who built laughter beside him, the question remained: will Katt Williams ever find the heaven on earth he dreamed of? Or has fate already decided that for him, heaven will always remain an unfinished dream? Final message. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Every week, we bring you real stories of artists who sacrificed everything to bring laughter to the world. Because behind the dazzling lights, there are always souls still fighting in the dark. All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are based on information available at the time of production. The content may change over time and should not be considered final. There is still so much more to explore, stories of strength, legacy, and truth. Feel free to check out some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.